First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, the chairman, Mr. Watanabe, and Ms. Chano for the opportunity to both visit intensively think tanks in Japan and to have the opportunity to be with you today to sort of explore the challenges facing think tanks and the development of think tanks globally. I'm very interested in the title, The Role of Think Tanks in a Changing World. And one must underscore the changing world dimension because I think that is presenting a unique set of challenges, an existential condition for think tanks, not only in the U.S., but around the world, and that is in part what I will address. The development of think tanks around the world, first and foremost, is occurring at some at an accelerated pace, so there is now explosive growth of think tanks in Asia, additionally in the Middle East for the first time, and in many countries throughout the world, there is now a great interest in the role that think tanks can play. I am dismayed and quite concerned about the state of think tanks in Africa, where as an exception will be an unfortunate decline in the number of think tanks, and likely that 30% of the think tanks that exist in Africa today will be gone in the not too distant future. Overall, I'm most concerned about the state of think tanks based on some trends, and am very interested and committed to addressing or identifying the major challenges facing think tanks, the trends, and how think tanks might meet them. I do think that a fundamental shift must take place in think tanks, and I'll start at the outset as an academic, but as a person who has worked at a think tank and thought extensively about think tanks. It is very clear that the traditional model, the traditional approach to how think tanks are organized has changed, and that the environment around requires a fundamental rethink in terms of how and what think tanks do. So I'd like to focus on that, but it's important to sort of start with a definition of think tanks, which I have spent a good time thinking about. Some people now think that the concept of think tank needs to be rethought in itself. But I would suggest that think tanks are public policy, research, analysis, and engagement institutions. Both academics and think tankers would agree that the research and analysis element that I've identified, but not everyone would agree in terms of engagement. I think that is the fundamental shift that has taken place in the think tank world and needs to be emphasized, and new strategies and new structures need to be developed to make it possible for think tanks to be effective and continue to be effective, because I firmly believe that they are quite essential institutions, both to democratic but non or other forms of government, that are leaders increasingly in a world that is characterized by more issues, more actors, more competition, and unfortunately more conflict, that policymakers and the public need to know how to best manage these very fundamental challenges that were taking place. Let me point out what I think is just a few of the drivers in this transformation that's taking place that has become very common in terms of the disruptive technologies and that have empowered and made possible disruptive politics. It is a phenomenon that I think will grow and that is incumbent upon think tanks to understand these trends and to prepare their institutions to respond to them. First and foremost is globalization. The fact that we have become increasingly connected, increasingly global, but there's now, a sort of backlash of anti-globalization, but the reality, the implications of interdependence are not going to be altered. Secondly, the internet. Thirdly, and I think most importantly, the ceaseless advances in technology. These new technologies not only disrupt industries, but have a profound and significant impact on all knowledge-based institutions, and especially think tanks. These three, when taken together, create a new phenomenon that is very much present and I think is the major shift that has taken place, and that is the increased velocity of information and policy flows. The increased velocity of information and policy flows. These are accelerating the issues that we face. They are circulating at a higher speed, and they are requiring a different type of response that think tanks and other knowledge-based institutions need to understand and respond to. And I would look to and provide as an example the Trump administration in terms of being able to harness tweeting as a disruptive mechanism, and then the use of social media and micro marketing as a effort to target, energize, and mobilize constituencies. That genie is out of the bottle and will have a profound impact on politics, not only as it is in the United States, but around the world. So the new business models, as I would suggest, involve a fixed and variable core. Basically, the requirement that having a set of scholars that are focusing on a single set of issues, and there is no flexibility built into that, that increasingly the shelf life of issues, of politics and leaders will be shortened. And the need to essentially respond to new and emerging issues will be shortened, and the institutions must reflect that new reality. The historical perception of, or view of think tanks is that they're best suited for the short-term and long-term analysis. This new environment in which we operate in, this new political economy of think tanks, requires that we think both in the long-term, short-term, but we have to be able to explain to policymakers and the public what is going on in the streets. Not predict it, but to better understand it and provide more timely analysis on a shorter time frame. These are very fundamental challenges that will increase the pressure on think tanks, increase the tension within think tanks in managing these, because it requires a new way of thinking about and organizing think tanks. The greatest change in all of this, in order to be responsive, is that the scholar-centered universe, the researcher or analyst as the center of a think tank, is no longer the case. That in order to be effective, in order to be responsive to the new political economy in which think tanks operate, requires that there is a rebalancing or a rethink in terms of the structure, the strategy of think tanks. And what I mean by this specifically is that, and I want to be clear, since I am in an audience which is largely those who are in the research community, either in academia or at think tanks, that research and analysis and scholars and the ideas that they produce will continue to be the central mission of think tanks. What must change is the products that they produce, the way that they disseminate those products. And so the books, in your packet, was asked by the Washington Post to write a piece on these current trends. And the reality is that books and journals, to be provocative, are dead. Think tanks and scholars will continue to have to produce them, but the reality is that they are not the only output of think tanks, and that new and different ways, new and different products, outputs of think tanks will need to be produced, and there needs to be a better understanding of the audiences, and I say that in plural, for think tanks. The notion that is, or the fundamental element that has also changed is that policymakers are not the only audience for the output of think tanks. That the reality is that the media, the public, and the highly segmented and targeted audiences can now be identified and reached using social media, using marketing techniques that think tanks need to harness, need to understand, and need to incorporate into their operations. In terms of the staffing of think tanks, let me suggest that in the days when a scholar was the primary or chief executive of a think tank is no longer the case. Certainly they must have the respect and be able to have the credibility in terms of the ideas that they produce, but they don't necessarily have to be a scholar. Increasingly, the role of a think tank executive is external, is essentially communicating the ideas and programs of a think tank, of managing a very complex organization that is not just simply directing a group of scholars, that now the elements, the positions that are currently in think tanks both across the globe, not just simply in North America, but in every region of the world. And those new roles are someone who is a communication specialist, who knows about blogging, who knows about infographics, who knows and is looking on the cutting edge of how to communicate, how to target what is published or produced by a think tank. Secondly, and increasingly, are data scientists. More and more, the requirement is to essentially have individuals who understand big data, artificial intelligence, not with a fear that those things will replace them, but that harnessing big data and AI can increase the power of the analytics, and harnessing that increases the value and utility of a think tank. Additionally, mobilizing resources, that historically the principal funder for think tanks were governments and private and public international donors. That is changing in every region of the world. And new and innovative ways of mobilizing funds, such as crowdsourcing, need to be explored by think tanks in order to assure, and what this existential crisis that I see is in order to assure the sustainability and viability of think tanks. My fear is that think tanks will not move fast enough, will not innovate fast enough. In a world where in other sectors, it's clear the implications in terms of print and electronic media, in terms of publishing houses are vanishing and being transformed. And so an example of this and what I'm talking about is that the New York Times faced a decline, a significant, precipitous decline in its readership. And rather than burying their head in the sand, they looked at how they might transform the newspaper. And they essentially put together a team that would look at how can we repackage or the various means in terms of digitizing what we produce and how we can increase readership. So now the New York Times has more readers, more subscribers than it has had in the history of the newspaper. Every morning I get a morning briefing from the New York Times. That has driven dramatically, one, in terms of increased readership, but also in terms of revenues, in terms of subscribers. Those models are not alien to think tanks and should not be, and should be instructive. In the same way that Uber or Netflix or others, in terms of those disruptive models in business where power, convenience, and accessibility are increased, should not be lost on think tanks. Because it is increasingly the importance of making products that are accessible, making them in terms of more mobile, are key factors that are essential to the future survival of think tanks. We are in a highly competitive and information-rich operating environment, and that reality is central to what will be required in terms of transforming think tanks. The world in which there were think tanks would essentially produce ideas or conduct research, publish it, and policymakers and the public and the media would beat a path to their door are long over. And so in an environment where there's competition and for the attention of both policymakers and the public, it is essential that think tanks figure out how they're going to make their products more user-friendly, more accessible. This does not mean that what is produced by think tanks will be less important, less rigorous, or as some might suggest, that what I'm suggesting is dumbing what is produced by scholars and think tanks down. That is not the case. And there are many examples across the globe where this has been amply demonstrated, and I can certainly provide examples of that. Central to this, and keeping in mind and part of managing the tensions, is the fact that rigor, or what I call the 4 R's, rigor, relevance, and reliability and reach, are key, should be the cornerstones of all think tanks. Rigor, relevance, reliability, and reach. And that there needs to be, in terms of everything that think tanks produce today, are not simply national, not simply regional, but are global. And the audience increasingly is global, and think tanks should think in those terms. What does this mean in terms of Japan and other countries? I've now had the benefit of traveling to 108 countries, and spent, for good or ill, my entire professional career of the last 35 years studying and understanding think tanks. And from that, what is clear to me that think tank scholars need to be and continue to be first-rate scholars and analysts. That what is essential in terms of maintaining the credibility of an institution is its quality, its independence, and its integrity. And that should be closely guarded by every institution in every country. increasingly, whether it's in China or elsewhere, and not simply because I'm from an English-speaking country, publishing in more than your native language of your country is now critical, is essential. And once again, we are on the verge of where every institution and everything published by an institution will be able to be translated instantaneously into multiple languages. I think we're only, I would predict, 2 or 3 years out from that reality. And so the dissemination will increase in terms of the ideas. But until that time, at least publishing in the native tongue and English is essential. And then I would suggest, where possible and resources exist, taking a strategic approach in terms of other languages that are on your website. The new reality, just to suggest in terms of globally, is that websites are no longer the central site for communication and engagement. It's too static. The view of think tanks, of websites now is that they are repositories, a library, an online library, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's a new reality that leads and requires that think tanks think about a much more dynamic way of approaching the content that they produce. Secondly, scholars, in terms of the new staffing patterns and new models, will have to be multi-dimensional. Not only being able to be a great scholar and researcher or analyst, but also be media savvy, to be able to communicate succinctly key ideas in a way that is accessible and not imponderable. And finally, in terms of many countries around the world, the issue of being independent of government, both in terms of funding and thought. So all too many institutions are overly dependent on government in terms of for direction and funding. And I think it's essential that there is a diversified set of institutions within the think tank community in countries. And I'm pleased to say that in Asia, historically, many of the think tanks were close to government, but increasingly, as government becomes comfortable with think tanks, they have moved outside of the orbit. And there are now many models where think tanks are truly independent and are presenting a new approach and model for think tanks in country. My hope is that that can be increased and that the range and number of think tanks would be greatly expanded. The new reality places many challenges for think tanks, but one should perceive them, think tanks should perceive them not as challenges, but as opportunities. In the information-rich world and in the contentious and highly polarized environment in many countries, not just the US, think tanks increasingly have a key role to play. One, in terms of the demise of the news media in many respects, think tanks are not going to replace the news media, but can play an important role in terms of bringing information, reliable information, to the public. Secondly, policymakers increasingly are turning to think tanks to sort through the noise, to provide some sense of who I can trust, who I should listen to. And those are important new roles for think tanks. But centrally, they must harness technology so that they can increase the capacity of their research and public engagement. They need to look at diversifying their staffs so that they bring new people and new ideas to their institution, and that they are very much on the cutting edge of innovation. Many think tanks now have innovation labs that not only in terms of technology, not only in terms of policy ideas, are introducing and interjecting that into the institution. Those organizations that are doing that across the globe are the ones that I think will survive. There will be a significant consolidation or reduction in the number of the think tanks around the world, simply and finally to suggest that if you look at Google and other organizations like that are very adept at aggregating and disseminating information. They are not historically have an analytical capability. They are now, Google is now going to move toward an analytical capability. And so the question is, in terms of big data, which I will leave you with, and in terms of institutions like Google, why do you need a think tank when you have big data, artificial intelligence, and places like Google that have a name, have a reach, a global reach, and they're now introducing an analytic capability? These are the challenges that I think tanks need to focus on. One, why are we important? What value do we add? And it's a argument that needs to be made not only to policymakers but to public. And then what do we bring that to analysis that AI, Google, and others bring to the table that is different and important? And I think there is an answer there, but we must be able to articulate that. We must incorporate that into our business models. Thank you very much.
It's a real pleasure to be here today. It's not the first time, of course, that I've spoken here at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, but I've very much enjoyed all of the appearances I've had. I found them provocative, interesting, and I appreciate the hospitality. I'm also delighted to be here with a longtime colleague from the academic world who actually, in spite of what he says about books, does write a lot of books himself, and I'm sure he would not totally agree that books are dead. But it's wonderful to be here with Jim McGann, who I think is really a preeminent specialist on think tanks around the world. What I would like to do is basically to take 4 basic points. I'd like to speak a bit about how I think the world itself is changing, both geopolitically and also intellectually, and what that means for think tanks. Then I'd like to look specifically from the vantage point that I have had. I served for 4.5 years as the Japan chair at CSIS, Kokusai Senryaku Kenkijo, in Washington. And of course, being in Washington for the last 15 years, have been very actively involved with think tanks there. But I'd like to address the question of how Washington itself is changing and what I think that means for think tanks. Many of the points that I would make in that regard are similar to what we just heard from Professor McGann, but I think it's important to be concrete about both the challenges and the opportunities that are presented. Thirdly, I'd like to suggest a bit broader functional examination of what think tanks, the role of think tanks, particularly from the viewpoint of what they might mean for Japan itself. Certainly the issues that Professor McGann has just mentioned, the need to be timely, the need for short, succinct understanding of issues and be relevant. I would agree totally with what he said. Those are great challenges. There certainly at the same time are also functions of think tanks. As as a forum for dialogue, as a way to create networks, the importance of the personal flow of information among people. And in that regard, I think there are certainly broader functions that think tanks can play that we ought to think about, particularly in the Japanese context. And then finally, I'd like to say a few words about the challenge to creating effective Japanese think tanks that flows from some of the discussions we've had here in the past week. Because I think there is, given what Professor McGann said and also what I'm going to say, especially about the way Washington and other global centers are changing, I think there are, and what of course Chairman Tanaka told us about the world of Trump, which presents its own challenges, that we are at a critical juncture where we need to think seriously about the discontinuities in the world and about the way that think tanks and Japan in general and the United States can approach these challenges that are impending. First of all, in terms of how the world is changing. Obviously, globalization that Professor McGann mentioned is one key aspect. It means that the range of relationships that we have to look at has suddenly exploded. Trans-Pacific relations are one part of that, but relationships across the continent of Eurasia with Europe, other relationships inside Asia, relations with Southeast Asia, but South America, Africa, places that until very recently really people in most countries didn't need to think about. Those suddenly have exploded. As he also said, the internet, just in the last decade, of course, has created an explosion of new information. And so the question of how to respond to it, how to create analytical paradigms, I think is increasingly urgent. Certainly that requires rapid response, as he suggested. It does, though, also require us, I think, to formulate more sophisticated, holistic views of where we are. I just think of the impact, for example, that my friend and former colleague Francis Fukuyama's book, The End of History, had as the Berlin Wall was falling. You know, those sort of very large paradigms, I think certainly are books, and books are not dead yet. Although certainly the need for relevance, the need for up-to-date information is certainly rising. The world is growing more volatile and unstable. I think there's no question about that. What we've seen on the Korean Peninsula, for example, some divergence in the particular set of issues that Japan has to consider, that Korea considers, that China considers, that the United States consider with regard to the Korean Peninsula alone, I think show us clearly one of the analytical issues that is emerging, and the importance also for independent analysis. This is something that will be a theme of mine, and I think is certainly very important for Japan. The rise of China. What is it? What does it mean? What does it mean for the various countries concerned? How do we respond to that? Changes in the Middle East. Japan being so dependent on energy imports. The United States, of course, is becoming a net energy exporter. It's close to that, and will be a major exporter in future years, even probably as Japan continues to be an importer and as China becomes the largest importer in the world over the same sea lanes that Japan is also using. the rise of populism, the transformation in the nature of democracy itself. Of course, these are large issues, important issues. The point that I would make regarding all of these issues at the interface of politics and economics is that certainly there are global interests in stability and international understanding, but there are also diverging incentives and there are diverging interests in this world. And as a consequence, it's important to have both understand the information flows and analysis from elsewhere, but also to have some independent capabilities to do that sort of analysis. I've been talking about the geopolitical and geoeconomic changes in the world. At the same time, of course, intellectually speaking, exactly as Professor McGann has said, there's growing complexity, both of the problems in the world and also of the potential solutions. The issue cycles are accelerating. Information flows are, and both the problem and the response cycle is getting more and more rapid. So there's a need for on-the-spot understanding that even a lot that can't be conveyed by the internet that I think is becoming more intense. And that leads me to a second subject I would like to say a few words about. As I said, that I've, for the last 20 years and more, has been one of the main subjects or concerns of my own career, namely how Washington itself is changing and what that means for the nations of the world and particularly for Japan. Washington today is not the Washington of 1951 when the San Francisco Peace Treaty was signed. Of course, our alliance across the Pacific, I deeply believe, continues to be extremely important for both countries, both for Japan and for the United States. But in 1951, China was under embargo, Southeast Asia was colonized, Korea was in the midst of a war. Just to cite a few examples, today, all of those actors, China, Korea, Southeast Asia, not to mention Europe, the Middle East, and so on as a product of globalization, all of them are interacting very dynamically in Washington itself. The same thing, I think, is true perhaps to a slightly lesser degree, but certainly true here in Tokyo. It's true in the European capitals. This is true around the world. And this is happening with lightning speed. So the issue of competition and getting one's ideas, one's understanding out to the world is a very different problem than it used to be, particularly because the issue cycles are also getting much shorter. I was strongly impressed by this because I was the assistant to Ambassador Foley during the tragic Ehime Maru accident in 2000, 2001, in that period. As most of you know, of course, it was a tragic accident. We wanted to respond with sympathy and understanding as rapidly as we could. But it all exploded to us in the beginning of the era of the internet, and we had to respond very, very rapidly to that, which was a difficult thing. It was happening halfway across the Pacific in Hawaii. It was hard for us in the embassy to know immediately all of the details. And there was many human issues involved as well. This kind of thing is happening with increasing intensity in international relations today. And so being on the spot, the local, the ability to understand and to respond locally, act globally and, understand, respond locally as well. Those things are increasingly important. Washington's changing in other ways besides competition and the shortening of the issue cycles. There's also a growing power, I think, of large institutions, private institutions, particularly the think tanks in Washington. However, some of the smaller think tanks, even if they may have good ideas and so on, for some of the reasons Professor McGann just mentioned, find it very difficult to get their ideas out. So the whole question of commercialization, I don't like to think of ideas as a product, like a bar of soap or something like that. They're not a bar of soap. But the process through which they are conveyed and understood is becoming very much of a different sort of thing than it used to be. The politics of advice and the mechanisms of advice, I think, are changing. Conventional lobbyists' role is declining. The role of what we call the K Street is declining. There are new institutions, law firms that have public relations functions, Stonebridge, Albright, just to cite one example. These kind of institutions are becoming more important. Many of the key organizations are transnational. The Hogan and Lovell law firm, for example, it was a recent merger between the British and a large Washington law firm. There's a bit of a shift from pure research to something that combines research and advocacy. The difference between lobbying and research is narrowing. So I think what I take from this is that a Washington presence in terms of the U.S.-Japan relationship is quite important, or an understanding of Washington in terms of representing ideas effectively. Of course, I know that there's deep understanding of that sort in some of the major think tanks here in Tokyo, but I do think that that's an important, increasingly important reality. Let me say just a few words about the role of think tanks. Not much, because of course Professor McGann's the real authority. Certainly, but I think it's important to remember think tanks can construct technical solutions. That's right. They provide policy advice. That's right. They participate in policy debates. Yes, that's right. All the things that he mentioned. There are a couple of other things, too, I think we could add. They are a neutral ground, ideally, for fostering networks, interpersonal networks, the human dimension of think tanks, the conferences that they sponsor, the kind of human interaction that they create, some of which similar to what we're engaged in now, but including like the receptions, the smaller gatherings. I think that interpersonal part is not disappearing despite the internet and so on, and it's something that takes time to foster, and it's a supplement to what we have heard, but it is not totally replaced in the new era that's dawning. Think tanks can help modulate government and corporate messages, but including informal discussions apart from just what you might get through an instant message. So it's also they can be a mechanism for track 2 approaches or track 1.5 approaches. That is to say, they can be an appendage potentially to diplomatic processes or political economic processes. And I think especially in the sort of era that may be emerging in either Japan-China, Japan-US-China, in things involving China, of course, President Xi rather explicitly is talking about think tanks as a mechanism for track 2, track 1.5 discussions. I think certainly there's that era. Now, let me conclude with just a few thoughts. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but in the same way as Professor McGann told us that the era of books is over, I should perhaps say a few things, provocative things, about the challenges regarding Japanese think tanks that we have heard together in the last several days that we've been here. First of all, let me give you 4 specific challenges, which hopefully will be the basis for a discussion which we will have in the next few minutes. First of all, international contacts and international personnel. Personnel with a broad sense for the international world. Recently, there's been a sharp decline in the number of students going overseas. In some other countries, of course, there are many more foreign students than there are in Japan. In the or many countries send more foreign students abroad to gain international experience than is true here. And conversely, that's one challenge, the challenge of internationally oriented personnel. The second one that I hear a lot about is the problem of funding. How think tanks are expensive, and especially if they deal with all the challenges Professor McGann's talking about. That's a terribly expensive enterprise. Who is going to do it? Maybe is it the government is going to do it? Are there independent financiers who will do it? Where are the philanthropists or the governmental interests that will do that? The third problem, that of policy networks. Japan has not much, it is said, of a revolving door. There are not that many people in the think tanks who have policy experience. Not many is probably not the right word, but not enough. We have heard that a little bit. So that is a third issue. And then the fourth one, and I would stress this as being particularly important, as a challenge, not to say that it's something that's not being met, but a challenge that we have heard in our discussions here. The incentives to innovate. That people in think tanks are quite comfortable with conventional analysis. They don't have incentives to change their policy approach, even though there are all of these challenges particularly that Professor McGann was elaborating. So in conclusion, what I would like to say is, first of all, it's a volatile, dangerous, uncertain world in which we have information overload. We think we have all of the information in the world, but we don't have the analytical paradigms. Secondly, there's rising competition to have one's ideas understood in all the major capitals and certainly in Washington, D.C. Thirdly, think tanks can be useful potentially in helping Japan or other countries to deal with both the world and Washington. Potentially, I say. Fourthly, Japanese think tanks have challenges, particularly the challenge of innovation in the kind of turbulent world that we face. So then the question for us really is, can Japanese think tanks rise to the challenge that they face? So, thank you very much. ありがとうございました。
カルダ先生、ありがとうございました。 はい、ありがとうございます。ここからはじゃあ、モデレーターをやらせていただきます。私自身も実はシンクタンク業界に大変長くおりまして、っていうよりも自分のキャリアのほとんどシンクタンクにおりまして、95年に CSIS というところでシンクタンク10年間いたんですけど、その時に実はこの隣に座ってるカルダー先生がジャパンチェアで私の上司として、来られましてという、まだこの辺も長い付き合いでございます。で、私はマクガン先生の、シンクタンクに関するリサーチの本当にペーパーをいろいろ使わせてもらってるんで、実はお会いしたの今日初めてなんですけども、ペーパーには大変何度もお会いしててお世話になってる人でございます。ということで、まず、このお二人の話を元にしながらコメントを、茶野常務と私の二人でさせていただきますので、まずは茶野さんの方からお願いします。
はい、どうもありがとうございます。笹川平和財団で常務理事をしております茶野と申します。私の方は渡辺さんとは違いまして、シンクタンクよりも財団の経験の方が長いといいますか、すべてのキャリアが財団で埋め尽くされているということになります。そのためにちょっと私のコメントが財団という立場からと、それからシンクタンクの立場からということでちょっとミックスアップするかもしれませんが、ちょっとご容赦願えればと思います。ただまず初めに申し上げたいのは今回こちらの方に世界でシンクタンク研究の第一人者であり、そして世界中の108カ国いらっしゃったとおっしゃってましたけれども、もうまさに世界中のシンクタンクのことを研究され、しかもそういったシンクタンクの発展のために惜しみない努力をされているマクガン先生に心より敬意を表したいと思います。また今回いろいろいただきましたいろいろなコメント、どういうシンクタンクの今のチャレンジということについて本当に考えさせるものがありました。大変どうもありがとうございました。それからカルダー先生は私どももつい最近も SPF のために The Bay of Bengalというモノグラフを書いていただきましたし、また2年前にも中東湾岸地域のと日米協力の可能性についてのモノグラフを書いていただき、いろいろな点で私たちのグッドフレンドでありますし、また良き理解者として事業にご協力、そしてご教授いろんなサジェスションをいただいております。そういうカルダー先生と、それからマクガン先生、このお二人に本日はこちらにおいでいただきまして、シンクタンクのことについてお話をいただいたというのは非常に貴重な機会だというふうに思っております。で、じゃあなぜ私たちがそういうことをしたかと言いますと、実は笹川平和財団というのは私たちの中に海洋政策研究所という歴史としたシンクタンク部門を持っているんですけれども、財団全体をこれからシンクタンクの方向に変えていこうという作業を続けているところであります。従いまして私としてはシンクタンクというものが、どういうふうなものであろうかということと、それから、マクガン先生、カルダー先生にこれからの私たちの財団の行方というものを、ご助言いただければというのが一番大きなこの2人をお招きした私としての考えでございました。でそれなので私のコメントはどちらかと言いますと、笹川平和財団が今どういうことをしているかということと、それからいろいろなお話をいただきました日本の日本のシンクタンクのチャレンジ、あるいは世界中でシンクタンクを取り巻く状況が非常に違っているということに、じゃあ新参者のシンクタンクとしてこれから旅立とうとしている笹川平和財団がどういうことができるかということとの組み合わせでのコメントになるかというふうに思います。で笹川平和財団自体は1986年に設立された組織でございます。でグローバライゼーションという言葉が両先生からも何回もお話が出たかと思いますけれども、実は平和財団というのは設立当時から国際的な社会の中でどうしていけばいいかということを日本の立場で考えようということで作られた財団です。それは1986年という時代が象徴するように、日本が経済的には非常に成功していたけれども、国際的な役割というのがなかなか果たせていないと、そういうような苛立ちを民間の中でも考えた者たちがいて、民間の立場から日本が国際社会の中でどのように貢献できるかと、それを財団という形で努力していこうということで作られたのが笹川平和財団です。従いまして私たちは常に国際社会というものを意識しながら活動をしてまいりました。 ただその中で近年ですが、やはりその財団としての活動もどちらかというと女性財団というよりもオペレーティングファウンデーションに近いものになってきました。それからつい最近は特に安全保障部門というものを私たちの財団の中に非常に大きい部門として作り上げまして、特に国際平和そしてセキュリティの分野を中心にシンクタンクとしての活動をしていこうと。もちろん海洋政策の分野もございますけど、シンクタンクとしての機能を特にセキュリティ分野を中心にしながら強めていこうと。そして私たちは今まで培ってきました地域の専門性というものがございます。例えば太平洋島しょ国について考える部門、それから中東についての交流をしていく部門、日米関係を考えていく部門、そしてアジアについていろいろな交流あるいは研究をしていく部門、そして中国との関係を考えていく部門、こういうその地域特定の地域に対するなんていうんですか、今までのコミットメントというものがを土台にしながら、そしてそれをどのようにこれからの日本の政策形成に役立てていくことができるか、それからまた世界とどのように世界の組織とどのように協力していくことができるかということを考えながらシンクタンクになっていこうということを考えておりました。で、先ほどカルダー先生から特に日本のシンクタンクには4つのチャレンジがあるのではないかというお話をいただいたと思います。一つはインターナショナルなコンテクストでの人材の不足ということ、それからもう一つはファンディングの問題、特にマクガン先生がおっしゃったようないろいろなスピーディーな対応をしていくと、それをしかもコミュニケーションの分野での対応を強めていくという時には、確かにカルダー先生がおっしゃるように大変な装置あるいはその人材が必要であって、そういうものをやっていくというのは非常に大変なことだというふうに思ってますから、そういうファンディングの問題というのが2つ目、そして3つ目にはリボルビングドアがないという問題、そして最後はイノベーションというお話をいただきました。でこれはちょっと私は新参者の勇み足ということで皆さんには受け取っていただければいいかと思うんですけれども、実は財団というのはDNA としてイノベーションイノベーティブアイデアに対する嗅覚というものが非常に鋭く持っているものでございます。常に新しいアイデアを見つけて、しかもそれを本当に実現性があるのか、本当にこれはちゃんとメイクセンスするのかというものをちゃんと見分けながらイノベーティブなアイデアを見つけていくということを財団としてはまず一番の仕事としてやってまいりました。それからそのためにはいつも俯瞰的な立場からその分野そのイシューについて何が起こっているか、どういうことが問題であるか、そしてどういう方がその分野でプレイヤーとしているかということを常に考えていくというのがもう一つ重要な仕事になってきます。でその中でひとたびこれは有望なアイデアではないかということを見極めた場合には、今度は財団が培ってきたネットワークの中で、それはシンクタンク同士の横と横というだけではなくて、やはり政府関係者から下はそのノンプロフィットの草の根の方々からいろいろな方々との共同作業をしながらその実現に向けて力を注いでいくというのが財団の一番得意な仕事でございます。で私がもしかしたら笹川平和財団がこれからの日本のシンクタンクの中で何か貢献ができるとしたら、やはり財団としてのそういう DNA を生かしながら、しかしシンクタンクとしての先生がマクガン先生もおっしゃってカルダー先生もおっしゃっていたスカラリーななんていうんですかね、要するにアカデミックの分野でも一流の経験と知識と知見を有し、その中で財団的ないいアイデアを見つけながらそれをちゃんと実現にまで生かしていく力、そういうものも生かして、そのコンビネーションを使いながらうまく何か世界の平和、あるいは日本がこれから世界の中で果たしていく役割というものに対して説得力のある助言、あるいはその 説明ができないかというのが私が実は考えていることであります。でそういうことにつきましてもしも、マクガン先生それからカルダー先生の方で、ご助言がありましたらそれは大変ありがたいと思いますので、拝聴したいと思います。まずは私のコメントはここで一旦切ります。
ありがとうございます。今の助言をちょっとお二人からお聞きしたいっていうのをちょっと記憶がフレッシュなうちにお願いしたいと思いますので、私のコメントの前にぜひ、カルダー先生とマクガン先生どちらからいきますか。カルダー先生最初に行かれますか。マイクに手を伸ばしたので、その後マクガン先生お願いします。
Thank you very much, Watanabe-san and Shana-san. Very much interested in your remarks. Maybe the one quick reaction I should make, especially, I recognize, I see many friends here, many people who've done distinguished work or institutions with distinguished work. I think defining one's particular niche and thinking about where one's comparative advantages, where the contribution can be particularly valuable is something to think about. And I think, for example, a lot of the work that you've done on the oceans and on the islands and on energy and the interrelationships of those things, of course, some of that then relates back into security. To me, a lot of that is quite fresh, and I see at least what we're doing in various think tanks around Washington and in universities. And a lot of that seems very new to me, especially some of the interrelationships among those areas that are generally considered to be distinct. The other thing maybe is the way that the ability that you have, I think, distinctively to look across some of the traditional institutional barriers or, I think, for example, between South Asia and Southeast Asia, or to look beyond individual countries to, broader analysis that cuts across regions and so on. I think there's a lot of room, particularly for work in areas that don't, that aren't precisely the areas that others have focused on, and that build on your existing strengths. And I think there are a lot of those.
ありがとうございます。それではマクガン先生何かアドバイスをいただければ。
Yes, I think there's, given the nature of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, I would suggest that Sasakawa is uniquely positioned to play two critical roles in Japan, in the region, and globally. One, as a former foundation executive, one of the key roles of a foundation, which Sasakawa is operating, is to serve as a catalyst in terms of identifying areas, gaps in terms of analysis, gaps in terms of policy, and to fill those gaps with research, with analysis, to serve one as a catalyst for ideas and policy innovation. I think you're uniquely positioned to do that. Secondly, which I think we've discussed, and the question is how do you address it? As an institution, Sasakawa Peace Foundation could become for the think tank community in Japan as a catalyst for organizational innovation in two ways. One, to essentially adopt innovative strategies from other institutions and incorporate it into your operations, and then serve as an innovation hub within Japan. I think many of the meetings that we've had, people have been pessimistic, at some respects bordering on fatalistic in terms of the potential of bringing about change. I believe that it's possible. I believe that it's essential, and that there is a unique moment for Japan and for Sasakawa to help make that transformation process possible and be the leader as you have been, but in a different way and on these two levels in terms of policy innovation and organizational innovation. And I think that would be a major contribution not only to the think tank community in Japan, but globally, and providing the policy leadership that is unique. And I think we have a moment in terms of Trump, but also in terms of a sea change in policy and the role of important countries around the world. And it is that unique moment where Sasakawa Peace Foundation can prepare the nation, prepare the institutions in the country to help fill that role.
ありがとうございます。なんか茶野さんの方からすぐにリアクションありそうですね。お願いします。
特にリアクションというか非常にエンカレージングなコメントをお二人からいただきましたので大変ありがたいと思うと同時にですね、なんかその期待をたくさんいただいたのでこれをフルフィルにするためにかなりまた大変だなということを思いますが、大変光栄なことでありますし、そもそもがシンクタンクというものあるいは財団というものはやはりそのパブリックグッズであって、やはりその世の中を変えていくこと、世の中を良いの問題を解決しながら世の中をより良い形にするための貢献をするという大事な役目があると思いますし、またその中で、政府関係者、政策担当者とそれからその民間の考えというものを結びつけていくという非常に重要な役割も持っているというふうに思っております。それに加えまして今おっしゃっていただいたようないろいろな役割を果たしていくというのは大変でありますが非常にありがたいことであると思いますし、またそういうふうに世の中が変えられる、それから組織がいろんなことにコントリビュートできるということを考えていくというのは日本の社会にとっても大変必要なことではないかというふうに思います。大変どうもありがとうございました。
それでは私の方からちょっとコメント&モデレーターなんで、私はコメントもできるしモデレートもできるって大変有利な立場におりますので、ちょっと今までの議論を聞いていて私の思うところをちょっと話させてください。というのも私もずっとは日本のシンクタンクはどうあるべきかっていうのはずっと自分でも研究してきましたし、実際にシンクタンクの活動を通じて、私はやはり政策に影響を与えることが大事だと思って、私の外交安全保障の政策の専門として、それなりにアメリカでもやってきましたし、アメリカの場合は幸いにも日米同盟についての政策提言をしてたからアメリカ政府にも提言してきましたし、その時は日本政府にも実は提言をしてきたと。で日本に来てからも実は日米同盟についてアメリカにも提言をできるし、日本にもしてますし、最近では日本アメリカ以外の国にもこうした方がいいって話をできるようになりました。それって先ほど茶野さんが言ってた公共財の提供ということに尽きるのかなと。で公共財って何かというと、これも今日も昼間マクガン先生との話の中でも出てきたんですね。パブリックグッズっていう概念って結構重要だと思うんですよね。これは国の中でも国際的にもそうですけども、やっぱり公共のために皆さんがいいためにどうしたらいいのと。で何をするのと。だって我々って比較的歴史的には非常に安定した世界に住んでて文明の恩恵を受けていて、でもそれってただ何にもしなくてこんなに比較的平和な豊かな暮らしをしてるわけじゃないですよね。これは歴史を振り返ってみてもそういう誰かが反省をして公共財を出し合って世界のシステムをある程度安定させていて、それで成り立っているということであります。これを忘れちゃいけないんだと思います。それがなんとなく今は比較的不安を持っている人たちがそういうことに噛みつくような風潮になっていて、それが一つのポピュリズムになっていると思うんですが、それをきちんと見直して我々の社会って実は結構世界がそれなりに公共財を出し合ってうまくやってんだよねと。でもそれを失ったらどうなりますかねっていうようなことを多分考えるような役割っていうのが公共的な機関に求められてて、それが例えばシンクタンクとかあるいは民間の財団とかそういうところに求められていると思います。で そういう役割の話はもう参議院の方々がお話ししたんですが、私一つ、参議院の方々が言ってなくて一つ出したいことがあって、それはシンクタンクの機能としては何かというと、大学ではできないことをやってると。じゃあそれって何というと、私はもうこれは学際的ということですね。インターディシプリナリーと英語で言うんですけど、つまり経済学の人は経済の話をして、政治学の人は政治学の話をして、社会学の人は社会学の話をするんですが、実際の世の中の問題っていうのはどれでもありどれでもない、どっかにある。でアプローチも政治的な解決が必要な場合もあれば、経済的解決が必要な場合もあるし、じゃあそうじゃない場合だってあるわけで。ということは、本当の問題に対処するためにはあらゆるツールを使わなくちゃならないんですが、これ大学っていうのももちろんそういう大学あるんですが、どっちかっていうとやっぱり学問の精緻を極めようとすると、一つの学問でのやり方にこだわらなくちゃならないんです。それを超えるような役割をするのが実はシンクタンクじゃないかと、実は私は思ってまして、というのはこれは実は私の個人的な経験に基づいておりまして、私は実はもともとバックグラウンド私歯医者なんですね。デンティストなんですね。だからなんでお前そんなことやってんだって言われるとすいませんって言うんですが、実は言い訳としては、私の母親は歯医者だったんですが、父親は政治家でして、一応両方に興味を持ってたと。しかも子供の頃に、私子供って言っても大きくなってから、高校生ぐらいから大学生にかけて、うちに自宅に小室直樹という人の本があって、小室直樹という方はご存知の方いるかもしれませんが、かつてソビエト帝国の崩壊という本をソビエトが崩壊する前に書いて、一体この人はなんでそんなことが分かるんだって言われる人なんですね。知られた人なんです。もう亡くなりましたけど、実はうちの親父の高校の同級生で、というわけでうちに本があって、私も読んでびっくりしたのは、アプローチがよく分かんないんですね。もともとなんか小室直樹っていう人は数学を京都大学で専攻してたと言って、しかしハーバード大学で社会学を勉強してと。でもやってることは政治と経済両方混ぜてて、でソビエト帝国の崩壊の理屈というのも、なんかソ連のその機能がうまく富を分配できてないので効率が悪くて、結局その電子例えばソ連の当時の戦車とか戦闘機の電子部品が非常に弱いと。だからそのうち負けちゃうよと。だから崩壊するんだみたいな話が書いてあって、もちろん崩壊前ですよ。でもそれって今から振り返ると早かったなと。でおそらく小室直樹っていう人が大学の教授だったらそういう本は書けなかったし、分析も出せなかったと思うんですよね。でも彼はそれをしていたと。で私も歯医者ちょっと商売にならないんでちょっとやめて違うことやろうと思った時にですね、どうせ一つの道外れてんだったら普通の学問やっても面白くないから、そういうことやりたいと思って実はアメリカ行ったんですね。なのでそういうアプローチ、つまり学際的なアプローチをする場面っていうのはこれからも求められるでしょうし、そういうのが多分一つのシンクタンクの可能性じゃないかなと、そういうふうに実は思っております。でもう一つありまして、先ほども話に出てますが、日本には実はリボルビングドアといって、そのアメリカだったらばシンクタンクとか大学の先生とか専門家が政権交代のたびに、ポリティカルアポインティ、政治任用で入っていくと、そういうものがあるんですが、日本の場合はどっちかっていうと役所に入った人たちがずっと役所にいて、あんまり人の入れ替わりがなくて、で政治の方はどちらかというと選挙で選ばれた人が大臣になっていくという、そういう構造の中で、実はあんまり専門家の出番がないんですよね。審議会みたいなところでちょっと入るんですけど、でそこの要素をもうちょっと増やすにはどうしたらいいのかってずっと思ってて、で私は思ったのは政権交代だと思ったわけですよ。政権を交代するとそういうことが起こりやすいし、人も情報も必要だし、最初にそのマクガン先生が最初おっしゃられたアメリカの場合は、例えば立法府と行政府とかそれぞれに分かれてるから、そこでコンタクトポイントが多くて、それでシンクタンクみたいに影響力を与えようとするところが増えるっていうような趣旨の話を最初されてて、私なんかもだからかつて 1955年体制、これは実はカルダー先生がその構造の分析は大変大家なんですけど、なんで自民党長期政権が続いたのかっていう話、その中で実はそれが続けば続くほど外部の人間が影響を与えるような要素が少ないんですよ。ところが実は自民党長期政権一時終わりますよね。で民主党政権できましたよね。外交安全保障専門家は結構民主党政権のことをどうしても悪く言う傾向にあるんですが、でもあれがあったせいで実は相当の動きがあって影響力を与える人が増えて、で今の安倍政権の実は外交安全保障政策って相当今までの自民党の政策から変わったと思うんですよ。批判もあるでしょうけど、私はこれはいい変化だと思うんですけど、それは安倍さんの努力もあるけど、実は民主党政権っていう大きな変化があったから実はやれたんじゃないかと、実は私は仮説的に思ってまして、でこれから実は日本がどうなるのか分かりませんよね。ただおそらく前よりは流動的で、前よりは影響力を与えるポイントが増えていくと私は実は思ってて、そうなるとますますシンクタンクという役割は重要になってくると、そういうふうに思います。ただしこれも最初にマクガン先生おっしゃられたように、やり方、影響力の与え方っていうのが相当変わっていくので、テクノロジーが。なのでこれからどういう在り方をするべきかというのは、こういうふうに今多分考えるのが大事で、っていうのは私も10年ぐらい同じようなことを言ってきたような気もするし、でも取り巻く環境はどんどん変わってきていて、で、本とか先ほど本の時代は終わったっていう話もありますが、でも本の時代終わった割には世界中で本屋さんがなくならないのはなぜかと、やっぱ紙だよねって人いますよね。それから紙じゃなくてもいわゆるその電子メディアで本を読む人も増えてますよね。だからこれからいろんな考え方が出てくると思いますので、そういうことを考えるには実はすごく今の時代っていうのは割とスクラッチからもうちょっと見直そうということで重要じゃないかなと思っておりまして、それについて実にマクガン先生とカルダ先生の今日のコメントには感謝しております。それで私からの質問でございます。お二人にこれは実は会場からの質問もちょっと来ていて、それにも関わってくるんですけど、トランプ大統領っていう人の下で今アメリカ政府とかシンクタンクはどうなってるのかという話です。特に質問でも来たんですけど、質問の中にあったのは、トランプという大統領っていうのはそもそも国際ルールとかレギュレーション、規則とかそういうのをあんまりきちんと信じてないとか信用してないような行動をとっていると、そういうようなリーダーを迎えるところで、一体アメリカのシンクタンクっていうのはどういうふうに動いたらいいのかというのが一つあります。で、私の場合はもうちょっとスペシフィックなところで、アメリカのシンクタンク、ワシントンのシンクタンクというのは実は政府に対するリボルビングドアという出たり入ったりで決まってるところがあって、そこが力を持つところもあるわけですけど、どうもトランプ政権になってからいわゆる普通のメジャーなシンクタンク、例えばブルッキングス研究所とか CSIS とかこういうところからはほとんど入ってないんですよね。で、そういう中でシンクタンクの影響力っていうのが多分ばらつきも出てきてるし、あるいはシンクタンクにいる人たちはもうこの先もう政府に入れないのかなと思ってるのかもしれません。そういう大きな多分トランプ大統領が巻き起こした変化の中で、今のワシントンのシンクタンクは一体どうなってるんでしょうか。そして今後どうなっていくのでしょうかということ、このテーマがぜひマクガン先生とカルダー先生にお願いしたい質問でございます。よろしくお願いします。最初はどうしましょう。マクガン先生の方からお願いしていいですか。
Well, I think the important thing to mention is that the revolving door is seamlessly embedded in Washington and the U.S. political system. In fact, there's not a sense of that it is odd or unusual that occurs, that individuals who are in government will come into a think tank and then go back into government and go to an entirely different think tank. And it's seamless and very common. I would cite to give you a sense of how important both the reliance on outside experts and the impact. If you look at the most important political question or policy question faced by the United States, the post 9/11, how did it occur, why did it occur, and how to prevent it in the future. The individuals who guided that process were not members of Congress, they were not members or individuals from the bureaucracy, they were all from think tanks. If you look at that commission, if you look at the membership of that commission, those who essentially did the analysis, those who produced the report, were all from think tanks in one position or another, board member, researcher, president or director of a think tank. Secondly, if you look at 2008 and the importance in terms of, and the reliance on outside experts and the importance of think tanks, the crisis of 2008 occurred between the transition from two diametrically opposed administrations, George Bush and Obama. And so the crisis, the economic and global crisis, was growing and almost full-blown. It was people like Larry Summers and Geithner who were at think tanks, who were working at think tanks, and who were brought into Brookings to help Obama prepare for this crisis. And so think tanks and the revolving door of individuals like Geithner, like Summers, who have gone in and out of government, were at a think tank between administrations at a critical moment and were able to provide advice. In terms of the current administration, one might compare and look at individuals like President Carter and Donald Trump. There is, in terms of in the early days of administrations where the individual is an outsider, meaning outside of the Washington establishment, and there is no better example of that, no more extreme example of that than Donald Trump. However, he has, in many respects, not drained the swamp as he promised. But what is, and the question, embedded in the question is, does Donald Trump rely on think tanks, and is the demise of experts and the revolving door become a reality in the Trump administration? The reality is no. And in many respects, he has relied on what I say are the 3 H's: heritage, principally, Hudson, and the Hoover Institution. This is a matter, of course, that there are those institutions that are not a part of the Republican Party. Some confuse and suggest that heritage is part of the Republican Party. It is not. It may share many of the values and many of the policies of the Republican Party, but it is separate. But Trump relied heavily on Ed Feulner, who was the president, former and then interim president over the last couple of years at Heritage. He was the principal staff person, person who was the advisor for all of the domestic appointments. So had tremendous influence. Vice President Pence is from Indianapolis. Hudson spent many years, had moved from Croton-on-the-Hudson to Indianapolis, and so there was a close connection to Vice President Pence, and so there's a natural reliance in terms of policy advice on Hudson. And Hoover, while it's removed in terms of on the West Coast, has provided valuable assistance and consultation with Trump. Increasingly, as Trump moves from the early days of his administration to his second and future years, you can see an increasing reliance, both in terms of appointments in senior positions, but also in terms of advice from think tanks. I would point out that AEI, the American Enterprise Institute, which was one of the conservative think tanks that was a part of the Never Trump movement, still had influence, specifically on the Department of Education and the appointment of DeVos as the Secretary of Education. Additionally, and more importantly, there is, in terms of conservative circles, a view of that the years of trying to work with the Democrats, the years of trying to reduce government and government spending have not been successful. And so I think what we're seeing in the new administration in terms of embracing Trump and in terms of the conservative institutions of Heritage, Hoover, and Hudson, I called Trump in some respects, or characterize him as the disruptor in chief, in that his objective, which in part is informed by the advice provided by Bannon, is that you need to essentially deconstruct government and the approaches to governance in the United States and not try to reform it. And so even though Bannon is not currently a part of the administration, he is certainly still, in terms of his philosophy and approach, influential. And I would suggest that the strategy of people like Ed Follner and Heritage, in terms of transforming government, is to, one, starve government in terms of appointments and resource allocation, and then to not focus on, which is, you may look at it and they're not key appointments from major think tanks, as you often see, in terms of the revolving door, to answer your question. But at the second and third tier, flooding EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, education, the State Department, with appointees that are essentially in the operational level, or the second or third tier, and Ed Follner and Heritage, Hudson are influencing in a very profound way at those levels, and I would also say at Justice. So they are making key appointments, but in a way that is a part of not trying to lead in terms of policy, major policy recommendations. And so it's more in terms of executive orders, and even on the operational level of slowing down government and making major reforms and redirection at the policy level. And that's where the vast majority of the appointments and influence of various think tanks have had on the Trump administration.
Maybe just let me add a couple of points to that. Jim has told us that some think tanks are doing better than you would expect. The three H's in particular, the Hudson, Heritage, Hoover. I agree with that. Some areas like education policy, whether one likes what they're doing or not, I think they do have direct influence there. There are some areas where they're putting out ideas that I think you will see ultimately will come to more fruition, possibly even in a Trump administration. Infrastructure, for example, is a policy President Trump has said that he thinks needs more attention. There's a bipartisan interest in infrastructure policy. The think tanks, even places like Brookings, have been interested in this. Urban policy is another area. So I think as we go into the administration, we may well see more influence, particularly in areas where there's an overlap between what the Trump administration wants and what Democrats want. And of course, this relates to the question of how one sees the political winds down the road. We have our midterm election coming up very soon, of course, and there's a good chance that at least one house of the Congress, probably the House of Representatives, will shift, in which case I think you certainly would see more influence for some of the think tanks like Brookings that have been a little more marginalized, in the last couple of years. So those are. Then I maybe should add a couple of things, building on what I said earlier. I think think tanks provide other functions from a long-term point of view that are important. One is network building, just through the kind of meetings and personal associations that they create. They help people to get to know potential policymakers in our system, particularly a lot of the people that are out there in the think tanks, ultimately will be in the policy process. And it's a good informal way to get to know those kind of people and what they're doing. Also, finally, the international impact of what think tanks do. And certainly, I think the way, say, that what is presented at Brookings or CSIS or, Heritage or any of these think tanks, the way that that's regarded overseas may be less accepted than, or less influential than it would if you had a more conventional president. But, it gives you a sense of what's happening in the wind, what's in the wind in Washington. And that still is important, I think.
ありがとうございます。大変意外というか、私の最初は答えはマクガン先生に期待し、こういう答えが来るかなと思ったのはそうなんだよと。だから今シンクタンクはもうがっくりしちゃって影響力ないんだよって言うと思ったらそうじゃないんだと。影響力の聞かせ方が違うんだと。だから3つの H というところは影響力、これは割と日本でも報道されてると思うんですが、ただ影響力があると言っても、じゃあ例えばヘリテージ財団の誰々さんが何とかの局長になってとか、そういう影響力じゃないんですよね。で今出てきた名前もエド・フルナーという人が出て、この人は実はヘリテージ財団作った人で、もともと CSIS にいて、私もよく知ってるんですけど、それですいません、ヘリテージ財団を作って、そういう人なんですよね。非常にだからそういうアントレプレナーシップのある人でして、だからそういう人だからこそ逆にこれは面白いと思って、多分ヘリテージ自体をそういうところに近づけようと思ったんじゃないかという気がいたします。それからもう一つ、ハドソンインスティテュートっていうのは実は日本でも実は関係が深くて、作った人っていうのは未来学者なんですよね。で未来学者が先を見て作って、しかもなぜか分かんないですけど日本に関心を持ってくれて、だから実はハドソンっていうのはずっと日本についてはなんていうか既存のシンクタンクの日米関係では違って、日本は一体どうなんのと、世界を変える力を実は持ってんじゃないのみたいなことを考えてくれてるところで、この前も実はハドソンにも行ってきたし、ヘリテージも行ってきたんですけど、ハドソン行ったらばやっぱり日本なんかトランプ政権にも近いのもあるんでしょうけど、妙に日本に親近感を持ってくれてて、でヘリテージもそうで、ヘリテージは8月に実は行った時にヘリテージ財団でカルダ先生と私と、あと外交問題評議会のシーラ・スミスさんと、それがあとブルース・クリングナーというヘリテージの研究家で、日本の今後同盟国はどうなるとしてどういうことを期待しているか、こんなのをやってくれるぐらい実はすごく日本との関係が近いというのと、あと多分安倍さんとトランプ大統領が近いってことも意識しているということなんだろうと思います。ということで実は意外にも実は影響力は残っていると。それからカルダ先生がおっしゃったように、今のトランプ以外の政権ではまた違うシンクタンクが影響力を実は出すであろうということは、実はそのワシントンのなんていうか重層的な影響力の残し方っていうのは実はただものではないなというか、多分いろんなことを考えながらみんな常に動いてると。だからそこが多分重要で、日本もそうで、おそらくシンクタンクの在り方みたいな教科書みたいな感じで動いてる人たちには絶対に影響力は行使できないと。教科書はないんだと。やりたいことがあってやり方を知ってればそこで影響力を伝えるということなんじゃないかというのを勝手に私は今聞いてて思ったんですけど、そこでですね、これももう一つ重要な話なんですが、これはもうすでにマクガン先生もおっしゃられてたんですけども、そもそもトランプ大統領の時代っていうのは何かっていうと、ソーシャルメディアの影響力の、つまり 直接大統領がツイッターで国民に語りかけるおかげでいろんな混乱もあるけども、実はトランプ大統領はコアな支持者のをつなぎ止めていると、こういう時代ですよね。だから下手すると大統領と支持者が直接つながってるこんなソーシャルメディアの時代に一体シンクタンクのありようっていうのはどうなるんでしょうかというのが実は会場からの質問なんですね。つまりソーシャルメディアという直接ある意味でシンクタンクとある人たちとも直接つなげるでしょうし、あるいはリーダーと有権者が直接つながってもいると、こういうものですね。この中で一体政府とシンクタンクの役割っていうのはどういうふうにあるべき、変わっていくのか変わってないのかということですね。それからもう一つは同じ人が質問してるんですけども、日本のとかアメリカでもいいんですけど、国益をプロモートするために、政府がそういうシンクタンクを使っていくということ、これはそもそもいいことなのか悪いことなのか、そういうことも含めて、つまり政府が使うシンクタンクの在り方についての質問が来ております。この2つをぜひお答えいただければと思います。マクガン先生からいきますか。
Two things that I would mention on the last in terms of the focus was on the Trump administration, but I think in some respects, more interesting thing to look at is the number of ex-government officials, for instance, from state and defense that have gone to the Belfer Center at the Kennedy School of Government or to the Carnegie Endowment or to Brookings, all hurled the fact that the individuals are migrating in as they're out of office into their institutions as a feather in their cap. Additionally, and stunning to me, in January of 2018, I brought together 60 presidents of think tanks in the US. And not only were Hudson, Hoover, and Heritage doing well, but there was a boon in terms of fundraising for think tanks that were not directly affiliated or would be consulted by Trump necessarily in terms of having their best years in terms of raising funds. And part of that is, the opposition mobilizing funds to essentially bring about a transformation that some may hope will take place. In terms of the specific question, I think it was clear in terms of the comments that I made. Two things. One is that policymakers are no longer the sole audience in a world where information travels very quickly with social media and other means. The engagement of the public, the mobilization of the public, and the implications for politicians in that regard is essential. Many of the think tanks now have 5 or 6 people at all of their events who tweet in terms of the information and key points that are coming out. There's very active use of social media. Brookings, the quintessential academic think tank in the United States, requires that all of its scholars are active on LinkedIn and in terms of Facebook. They are not only required but are trained extensively on how to maximize in terms of their research and the activities that they're engaged in to maximize their presence in social media. Other institutions use it much more as a mobilization in terms of for or against a policy and educating around key policies. So it is not only, and I would caution focusing exclusively on the U.S. Because in other regions of the world, across the world, the use of social media, the use of advanced technology, and in terms of communications, or what I would describe as strategic communication, is deeply embedded in the operation of think tanks now. It varies in terms of the degree to which they rely on social media and other communications approaches, but it is the hallmark of not only engaging but also disseminating the ideas and research of think tanks at all of the major leading think tanks in every region of the world.
Just very briefly, first on this question about government-related think tanks. I think their function is really quite crucial in the sort of world that we're moving into. National interests are in some areas diverging. I mean, in the end, ultimately, the major nations, certainly Japan and the United States, I think have deep interest in stability of the international system, free markets, democracy, those big things. But then I could cite a whole series of issues, be it TPP, be it COP21, be it the future of the Korean Peninsula, and there are ways that national interests are diverging in the world. And thinking of original proposals for nations, the same thing I think would certainly be true in Europe. It's true. China certainly is thinking the same thing strongly. The ability to think through international problems from one's own perspective, national perspective, is a crucial question. I could mention some Middle East issues, perhaps, as well. So I think that does suggest the importance of, and also from that perspective for those national think tanks of a broad range of dialogues with a broad range of nations and situations. On the question of the social media era, how does it affect think tanks? Professor McGann, I think, said it very well. It means they've got to respond more quickly. You don't believe everything that just comes off of an off-the-wall tweet, but at least responding to it where it has relevance, I think is crucial. So it means speeding up the process. In all of this, though, I do think we shouldn't lose sight of substance. It still is important for the sort of information that think tanks put out to have a rigorous factual base to it, just because speed, isn't the only thing.
ありがとうございます。じゃあ今度は質問がいくつか来てるうちに、実は私と茶野さんにも来てるんですよ。日本のシンクタンクについてのことで、これは実はアメリカのケースとも関わるので、ちょっと4人にそれぞれの質問になると思うので、これはどういうことかって言いますと、企業活動、こういうところからお金をもらってきて、どういうふうに活動していくかということ、これはアメリカのシンクタンクなんかはかなりそうやってファンドレイジングをしてやってる、そこで巻き込みをしていって、アメリカの場合は特にそこが非常に一つの力になってるわけですけども、アメリカで今そういう状況っていうのは続いてるんでしょうけども、一体どんな状況になってるのかということですね。つまりアメリカの場合はシンクタンクというのはもうかなり認知度が上がっていて、プライベートセクターの特に民間企業がよく分かっていて、そこがお金を出してくれてるという状況があると思うんですよね。ここが多分日本とちょっと違うところでございまして、なので、マクガン先生とカルダー先生にはそのアメリカの状況、しかもこれがどう変わりつつあるのか、あるいは変わってないのかということです。で、私と茶野さんにはですね、日本のシンクタンクって、ここ笹川平和財団なんかはこの明らかに非営利団体ですけども、どちらかというと民間企業のシンクタンクもいっぱいありますよね。つまり営利団体としての、これはシンクタンクって言ってもどちらかといえばコンサルティング会社だったり、あるいは情報提供のシンクタンクだったり、私も昔三井物産戦略研究所という、これは株式会社にいました。ここは営利団体でもある。でもシンクタンクの情報も出しているということ。この辺の混在している状況っていうのを一体笹川平和財団としてなのか個人としてなのかどっちでもいいと思うんですけども、どう考えておられますかという質問が来ております。ということで、どうしましょう。茶野さんずっと喋ってないんで、ちょっと茶野さんから言ってみますか。茶野さん、マクガン先生、カルダー先生、私で。
最後の質問を最初の人が答えると、そういう話なのかと思います。ちょっと日本では企業がシンクタンクを作っているところもあるということとですよね。でそれはその企業がファンディングをしているということとはまた違うということだと思うんですけれども、ちょっと大変企業財団ということで話をしてしまうと、企業財団というのは企業の関心分野に事業を持っていきやすいということがあるんですけれども、やはり企業がお金を出すシンクタンクというのは、もともとのベースというのはやはり企業なりの関心領域があって、そこを出発点としながらその組織によってはそれを非常に分野をダイバーシファイしていったところもあるし、それからそのもともとの趣旨というものにスティックしているところもあるということなんだろうと思います。でシンクタンクといってもいろいろな分野が保健部門であったり科学部門であったりといろいろなところがあると思いますけれども、私たちのレベルから言うと、いろいろなどういう、誰がそのファンディングをしているかということにとらわれず、やはりいいシンクタンクいい活動をしている方たちにはうちの財団にうちの活動にも関わっていただきながら、やっぱりネットワークを広げていくと、その時にあまり、お金の収支というのは気にしないということなんだと思います。ただやはりなんていうんですかね、何かの特定の、提言をするときに、もしかしてどこからお金が出てるんだろうということをやはり明らかにしていく必要というのがある時点で必要になっていくのではないかということは思いますし、それはアメリカでいろいろな事例があるというふうに聞いておりますが、やはり日本の中でもなんていうんですか、透明性というんでしょうか、やはりどういうところからお金が出ていて何を活動しているということを明らかにしていくのは必要なのではないかというふうに思います。それからうちの笹川平和財団ということについて少しメンションがあったかと思いますけれども、特に今ファンディングはいただいてないという形になります。ただ私たちはもしかしたらこれから外からのファンディングを得るということも必要ではないかというふうに思っています。それはどういう観点からかというと、私たちのお金があって自分たちが好き勝手にできるという時に、もしかしたら私たちの活動が独りよがりになりはしないか、自分たちのこだわりを優先するあまりに、もしかしてもっと違うことをやった方がいいんじゃないかという、そのニーズとかけ離れる傾向がもしかしてあるかもしれない。そういう自戒の点を考えますと、やはり将来的に外の方とネットワーキングをしていくことだけではなくて、やはりもしかしてそのファンディングというお話があったら、それを議論の土台にしながら、より現実のニーズに応えていくような活動をしていくことも必要ではないかというふうに思っておりまして、ちょっとお答えになったかどうか分かりませんけれども、今そういうことを考えております。
ではマクガン先生お願いします。
I think it's important. There tends to be a desire to follow the money and to focus on the money. I think the reality in terms of, and the key connection is independence. Is your the analysis that's conducted by whether it's a government think tank or a non-governmental think tank. The question really involves three spheres. One is legal. Is there a legal framework that allows for the institution to be independent and is protected? And that is a question that in many countries is key. Secondly is the financial independence. But third, and I think in many respects more importantly, is what is the culture in the country and in the institution in terms of a emphasis and importance placed on independent research and creating an environment where the independence of the scholars is assured. There is, I think, and when you look at the United States, but the work that I've done globally, I think the key in terms of the financial dimension that you've focused on is diversity in terms of funding. If you have a range of funders, there's a saying, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And whether it is a government support from a ministry or from a corporation, if you you can easily, or a union for that matter, can have, if there's over-reliance on one donor, one ministry, clearly the researchers, whether directly or indirectly, will influence their objectivity. Those who think otherwise, I think, is not being honest in terms of that. One, we all come with baggage, but what we don't research because of the wishes or perceived interest of a ministry or a foundation, etc., is clear and influences policy research, and I think we have to be clear about that. There is, I think, and I think it's important to address in terms of the U.S. context, because the New York Times and others have focused on foreign donors and in terms of the influence of money on think tanks. The reality is, the simple reality is that, for instance, Heritage has 600,000 individual supporters. Brookings has over 1,500 supporters. And so to suggest that if there was simply one donor, that the influence would be possibly greater than when you have a whole host. And then the important part is that the institutions, when I looked at it very closely and collected the policies and procedures of the institution, they have very robust policies and procedures and have a vested interest, because the public relations nightmare of suggesting that their realm of the coin, which is credibility, would be tarnished by a question that they have been unduly influenced by a single donor. The reality is that the numbers mitigate that, and the institutions have policies in place. That being said, transparency is increasingly important, and I have urged think tanks to have robust, proactive policies to protect and create firewalls and be able to defend and to reveal why they have made X or Y decision.
I think the basic points have been quite well made, and I wouldn't disagree with anything that Professor McGann just said. That said, I think there's a point that hasn't been made, although it's in Japan, I think it's implicit. And that is, namely, there is such a thing as public interest. And I think in the kind of world that we're moving into today, certainly there will be tremendous interdependence. Certainly there will be strong relations with key countries in the world. And as an American, I certainly hope that Japan-U.S. relations will be one of the core, or one of those core interests. But national interests are also diverging, at least the way that they're represented in different countries. The world is going to be volatile. And so I think what that means is certainly there needs to be some core governmental support, especially for the government-related think tanks. And that those think tanks should have a strong existence. That said, diversity of funding, this idea of private grassroots contributions, broadening the financial base, of course that would be particularly true for the private think tanks, but even, a sense of community, a belief that the think tanks have input that's not simply from a few elites, but has their concerns that are shared more broadly by the nation. Thinking of how to do that, and also being sensitive to global interests, I think is important.
ありがとうございました。もう時間が押してますが、最後私もちょっとお答えしなくちゃならない、つまりファンドレイジングの話を今一緒にさせていただいたんですが、やはり日本だけじゃないんですけど、アメリカのシンクタンクのやっぱり素晴らしいのはファンドレイジングをする人たちがいっぱいいて、しかもそれはファンドレイジングっていうのは特定の目的のために集めるわけで、つまり 特定の利益のためじゃなくて公共の利益のためにお金を集めるということを努力している人たちがシンクタンクとかあるいは民間財団にもいますし、そういう人たちが実はデモクラシー民主主義を作ってるんですよね。その基礎を分かってる人たちが実は世界中にいて、私が CSI の頃に実は一緒にお金集めやってた仲間っていうのは、一人は今ワールドエコノミックフォーラムダボス会議でお金集めやって、もうマネージングディレクターになってるやつがいたり、あるいはチャタムハウスのトップやってて、これも金の集め方を先ほどマクガン先生おっしゃられてた個人ベースの基金に、実はチャタムハウスってもともとイギリス政府からお金出てたんだけど金なくなっちゃって、一人一人集めるやり方を作ったようなのがいて、これはロビン・イブレットっていうんですけど、というような仲間が、ワールドエコノミックフォーラムはリー・ハウエルという我々の、一緒に仕事した仲間ですけど、こういう人たちが世界中に散っているということはすごく重要であって、ということで私は最後やっぱお金集めのようなものもすごく実は重要な要素だと。しかもそれはシンクタンクだけじゃなくて民主主義に必要なんじゃないかというふうに思いました。ということで、もう本当に時間ギリギリまで本当に会場の方もいい質問をいっぱいしてくださいました。全部答えられなくてごめんなさい、無理です。でそれこそマクガン先生、カルダー先生、そしてシャノさん、ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。マクガン先生、カルダー先生、茶の常務、そしてモデレーターの渡辺上席研究員。